Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Talk to Sven. Thank you for tuning in and thank you for the great comments and questions we had over the weeks, especially also last week once again. I've got a question straight away from Cleophas Shivazera, who said, how can I participate in this session? So Cleophas, if you want to send a comment or a question, please forward them. We will pick them up and we can answer that. Yeah, today we have a big topic. Many people ask me, Sven, so what do you do? How does this go forward? Where does ONL go next? And what can you do differently? And here today we have a topic which I would advise which is very, very important. Now, I've got some incredible guests here today. It's Lucy May Lubrani-Slabat. She we regard her as one of the best in probably Southern Africa. And then we've got an exciting entrepreneur here with us, which is Malkies Ausiku, which is very successful in what he does. And we share some of the results of what you can do differently in the post-COVID world, and maybe just the new world at the same time. Now, Lucy, one or two words about you, firstly, before we go for the session.
Thanks, Sven. Actually, thanks for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here and contribute to this fantastic platform, Talk to Sven. My background actually originated in Europe. I'm European. I'm the daughter of a big family and parents Italian and British. I'm an adopted Namibian in many ways because I fell in love with my husband, who's a Namibian citizen, and this is how I moved here. From a career background, for the past 20 years, I've been involved in marketing communications, digital, and business development. Actually, most of the time I'm asked, how did you end up in Namibia? I ended up in Namibia while I was working with Epic Global Media, producing features for National Geographic and putting together a project at sea level throughout different countries. I happened to have the best of luck of being sent to Namibia in one of these projects, and this is how my destiny basically started shaping up. So currently I'm here and I work for Namibia Breweries. I drive the digital agenda for Namibia Breweries, and Namibia Breweries is also part of the ONL group, obviously. And yes, it is an exciting chapter, especially being within the group, because it's probably, to my humble opinion, one of the best group in the country that is actually on the digital agenda and actually pioneering a number of projects which are basically unprecedented. So that is me in a nutshell.
Yeah, thank you, Lucy May. I'm really looking forward to the session. And obviously my colleague here and then my other half-colleague, Malkies, one or two words about yourself.
Thanks, Sven. Thanks for having me on this platform. It's an honor to be part of this discussion. My name is Malkies Ausiku. I'm the co-founder of Lefa Transportation Services. It's Namibia Uber, so to say, as most people refer to it. And I'm an electrical engineer by profession, but ended up on the entrepreneurship route, and that's how I got to found or co-found Lefa. Yes. Thank you.
Welcome, Malkies. Exciting to hear more about Malkies a little later as well. Yeah, Lucy May, we talk about digital innovation, obviously, is a topic today.
Yes.
And it's digital transformation. And it's you hear this digital there and this digital over there, and you get confused. I think one of the things, what is digital innovation?
Absolutely. It is something that, to your point, has got so many layers. And the more the world is proceeding with unpacking what digital is, the more pieces of innovation come across and the more detailed and complex it's becoming. So what I've done for this session is that I took an extract from the World Economic Forum. Is a 3-minute video that gives an introduction of the fourth industrial revolution, which is also referred to 4IR. That is probably where everything starts in terms of the conversations. So I'm pretty sure that the team on the back end will be able to broadcast, so that could give us a bit of an icebreaker to start the conversation.
Yeah. Ernst, let's hear.
It's a fourth industrial revolution. It's a fusion of the physical, the digital, and the biological world. It's changing not only what we are doing, it's changing who we are.
It's really the notion of digital technology pervasively impacting every walk of life in every vertical industry on all parts of the globe.
Whether it's information technology and the acceleration we see in artificial intelligence, a lot is happening.
Society and how we're going to live is being defined right now.
The speed is mind-boggling. What I'm particularly concerned about is how little the world is prepared.
Harnessing this revolution requires the involvement of all stakeholders, from public and private sectors to academia and civil society. The World Economic Forum's Centre for the Fourth Industrial Revolution network ensures that the development and application of emerging technologies benefits both people and the planet. It is a network of centres for scalable impact, with locations in the United States, Japan, India and China, bringing together stakeholders to identify the impacts of these technologies, co-design innovative governance protocols and policy frameworks, and pilot them with partners around the world.
If we are not innovative, if we're not creative enough, it will be very difficult to survive in this century.
Humans and machines are assisting each other, augmenting each other with skills.
Humanity itself will be changed with this superintelligence, and we are at the doorstep of that era.
The technologies available today will impact and change healthcare forever.
52% of the encounters with our primary care physicians were handled virtually. Just a massive change.
The network will work closely to share research, analysis and learning, and help design new technologies in ways that respect societal values.
It's where innovation is happening about how we guide this revolution.
We can solve the many social issues through the digital technologies.
My hope is that we have a robust discussion for how this can truly help our world solve some of the hard-pressed challenges that we have today.
Together, we can shape a future that truly benefits and empowers people.
The world has changed. We can never, ever go back to yesterday.
So pretty amazing, huh? This is basically, in a nutshell, where we're sitting now as a generation. We're sitting really at the knee of an extraordinary change, which is, to the World Economic Forum point, it's not just about the introduction of new pieces of technologies, it's actually impacting the way we think, we do things, we transform ourselves. So I also brought this slide to actually give a bit of structure and to map it out, what we're talking about. What do people mean when we're talking about the fourth industrial revolutions? Is the fourth why there were other before? Yes. So the one that is mostly referred to back in the past is in the 17th century, which is the first industrial revolution. It was all about the invention and the introduction of water and steam. That is started sort of the mechanical processes of automation, but still mechanical. The second introduction was really about electricity. Now, automation started having a different speed. Electricity started also introducing the different households and allowing people to have light, as opposed to your back in the days, the little lights. And then the third one, which we all witnesses, was the introduction of computer. So computing, automation through that, allowed a lot of people now to, your Excel spreadsheet, your documents on a file. I don't know if some of us remember the floppy disks days.
Yeah, no.
We don't have any of that anymore. But the amazing piece is that from that time to this time, maybe there's 3 decades or so. So in a lifetime of an individual, we're now, through the introduction of the internet and the cyber-physical systems, we are now witnessing what the future may look like. And we basically don't even have a time to catch our breath, that as we sit here today, there is a number and a multitude of digital technologies that get all in all expanded and get all in all at the service of people. it is an amazing sort of future that we can look at. But the golden thread that actually makes the difference between what was back there and what it is today is the connectivity. So we're far more connected than we used to be. There is another slide that I brought in to give a bit of an understanding of what digital innovation entails. So I love this quote from Pearl Ju, who, by the way, she's a brilliant author in all things digital. She refers to as digital is the age of innovation because creativity is about connecting the dots in the wider scope. This piece of connecting the dots, when we're talking about digital, you will hear it more and more and more. So connecting the dots refers to actually data. There's a number of data that we're sitting on. We had data before and we have data today. So what has changed? What has changed is that the connectivity, speed, and complex interaction and latching onto each other has augmented phenomenally to a point that nowadays we don't talk anymore about gigabytes, but we talk about zettabytes, which is like millions of trillions and so forth. Where is that data coming from? What do we intend with data? We intend all of those mobile conversations that we have with each other, banking system, mobile banking, all pieces, these transactions, they basically nurture the machines, and the machines with the algorithm responds to that data. So this brilliant ecosystem of interactions forms insights. And this is why a lot of the companies nowadays, they refer to the big data. The big data is just a huge amount of unstructured or structured data or information that is for us through digital technology like artificial intelligence to start structuring and governing and transform that into insight, ultimately giving the competitive edge to companies worldwide. I love this quote from Sondergaard from Gartner. Gartner is one of those companies that actually go there and evaluates what are, the next pioneering digital piece of digital innovation and where the different companies that are pioneering that stand for. But he says information is the oil of the 21st century, and analysis is literally the combustion engine. I like that because it kind of he sort of refers to the fourth step of the Industrial Revolutions, but he translates that in what big data is actually doing for us today. So it is an amazing path, but yes, as you can imagine, it's pretty complex what's coming towards us, especially for companies, because we're coming from, as I mentioned before, in 30 years, we had to quickly find our feet and start optimizing, this is a big word in digital, transforming to become and become able to master these big sets of data. SAP, which is one of the, probably a lot of the bigger companies are already SAP clients, but SAP was one of these technology companies, says that less than 1% of data in businesses is analyzed and turned into benefits today. So imagine with the aid of digital technologies that actually can take a lot of the manual work out of it. Imagine if we go to 2%, 3%, 4%, and that is what the big conglomerate are aiming to do.
I find it amazing that the percentage is that low.
Yeah.
When I saw that, I was saying, oh, like you said, now what opportunity is there?
Yeah.
And I think, hence again, in my opening earlier, I said, for upcoming entrepreneurs and also for us business in Namibia, it's really something to be looked into, and I think that's why the session is so important.
Yes.
That it seems like we sit on a lot of data, and we have so little. We do so little about it. Exactly. And I also think, we just look in the watch today. We get told, "Are you walking?" or are you running, or the heart rate gets checked. There's so much data coming in, it's connected the dots and tells you maybe you should stand up. You know, just now you get a message, please stand up. And I think that's also part of this whole digital world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The wearable.
I think that slide is, again.
Yes. And that is the thing. A lot of peers, colleagues, friends, and so forth, they frequently ask me, so what are those digital innovative technologies out there that a business can start and look into it and apply? There's a number. I sort of put as a supporting slide, this slide, telling us basically which are the pillar ones. To your point earlier on, wearables, wearable technology,
exactly.
You know, for fitness. Imagine it goes, and this is the beauty of it. It doesn't fulfill a purpose of a corporate business. It fulfills from social to healthcare to education. I think through COVID-19,
and it saves lives.
Absolutely.
It has saved lives already.
Absolutely, absolutely. And through COVID-19, everybody got access in a way or another to the doubling of that technology. We have collaboration in social tools. A lot of the younger generation, to our point earlier on, is very tuned into that. Co-working online is possible today. Most of the teams also at our company, they share documents through the cloud. So you don't have any more those huge room on site with all these big computers where you deposit all your data, and if that gets broken, you know, goodbye data. We're transferring to cloud, and cloud is just meant, you know, it's a good word, cloud, because it literally sits in the air. It's not tangible, but it's right there. All your documents are saved, so you don't have to sort of worry about, you know, the computer room. The other brilliant one, which is gonna probably happen in the next 5 years, or when I say happen, I'm referring to how it will influence our way of doing things, not only business, but also beyond, is robotics and drones. I think, probably Malcus, you also have a drone, correct? Everybody's got a drone, or a lot of people are buying into drones. But robotics, also referred to as RPA, or robotic processing automation, to your point, Sven, it saves lives. Because now they can be so accurate, and the human error, it's discarded immediately at inception. And this is for all of those things that don't require creative, which belongs to human being, that don't require critical thinking, which belongs to human being, and does not require strategy, which again belongs to human being. So those are irreplaceable. Robotics and all these beautiful technology will not be able to take the emotional part, also a human being, compassion, caring. That it's human being pieces that they will remain pillar in society. Mobile devices, I think we're all digital when we talk about mobile devices. IoT is the Internet of Things. I love these, the acronyms are a bit heavy, I must say. In digital, everything is becoming an acronym, but they want just to deliver a tedious concept. The concept is, how does your device talk to the camera, that talks to his laptop, that talks to... So this is the Internet of Things. One of the brilliant examples of Internet of Things is the fridges, the talking fridges that tell you how much stock you have in the fridge. Not everybody's got that, probably nobody yet, but it's something that...
I heard about the latest dishwashers. It looks where the dishes are and how much is in, and accordingly adjust the water.
Load. Yes.
The load, yeah.
Yes. It's amazing, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, if I had to tell that to my grandmother back in the days, correct? She was already struggling in changing from that phone to the...
Well, I've got one of my daughters, we showed them once the rotary telephone.
Yeah.
And she asked me, how do you use it? You push the button?
Yes.
It is not the rotary function.
Exactly, exactly. There is, probably Malcus, you've also seen it, this fantastic video on social media that they give to a millennial, basically to dial with a rotary phone, and they didn't even know where to start. Absolutely. Why would you go there when everything could be digital? So the intuitivity, and this is the probing on the way we think. Digital innovation actually molded the way we think. So intuition is now more with the fingertips instead of the manual picking up the phone, which is absolutely, but probably is another chapter to go through. And then the last one is big data, which I've already anticipated earlier on. probably, as I said, is the golden thread, and everything sits behind these pieces of data that now gets connected and allow these different devices to talk to each other. Probably the underlying is also the introduction of the internet.
Yes. Maybe in summary to what you just said now is we have this great comment from Haidullah Nambuli. He said, it is so true. A lot of companies are collecting data, pay complex systems and licenses like SAP or MS Dynamics, but they aren't making sense and money from the data.
Yeah.
If I can just give a comment regarding the data. So LEFA, as everyone knows, it's a transportation platform that connects drivers to passengers digitally. So what we collect a lot of data. We collect, for instance, with the approval of our clients, of course, we collect data such as the locations where people make requests from. So when you look over a month's request, we can then analyze the data and see that, okay, most requests, and pinpoint up to an hour or half an hour, that most requests on a Friday come from Client Windhoek, and then we position our drivers to be closer to Client Windhoek because the most requests come from there, or at a certain hour on a Saturday afternoon, most requests come from Kleine Cooper, and position ourselves to take advantage of that data. That's how we have been using data to our advantage to basically make
they track the needs, eh?
Yes.
So you would know that these type of people probably would go to a restaurant or church or whatever, but then you position the car in the vicinity already,
Because for us, the most important time is one of the most important things is the reaction time to picking up a client. Right now is at about 10 minutes. That's the time it will take, less than 10 minutes, it will take a driver to get to a client once they request. But essentially in the future, we'd want to reduce that time to less than 5 minutes. And we can only do that through analyzing our data that we connect and strategically position our drivers at certain locations, at certain times, so that we can reduce that reaction time to our clients.
Wonderful, yeah. And I think that's all about the next slide here. We've got the comment.
Yes, that basically we're discussing any piece of digital innovation is fantastic, but is actually becoming useful the moment that we decide to use it and the moment that we decide to go for it. LEFA is a brilliant example and is a local example of a trend which was identified globally, which is Uber, to your point, but then Melkis and his team identified the opportunity of translating that into a local product. And that is a brilliant, brilliant entrepreneurship sort of level. There's a lot of companies who actually didn't take that quantum leap, let's call it. And probably there's this GIF that was navigating on social media that I thought was so popular and yet so impactful that I wanted to share. So if you have a look at this list of big companies, you're going to see a shift between 2001 and 2018, how the companies that used to be at the top in terms of brands, but also stock market-wise, they started degrading and going down, and it was proportional to their acquisition and adoptions of digital innovation. And other companies, and probably you're going to start seeing a huge difference towards 2015, they started actually to take over. Some of those companies are your Apple, your Amazon, Facebook. So all the companies that they managed to take the opportunity on connecting data, and to Melki's point, make actually an informative decision around how you're going to rotate your business, how you're going to put resources into place, they started having a competitive advantage which was of another level. And to Accenture CEO's point, he quoted something in the lines of, all those half of the companies that 10 years ago used to be on the Fortune 500, they're gone. They're completely out of view. They basically gone bankrupt, or they don't exist anymore as such name, because there was a hesitation in investing in digital innovation. Why? Because digital innovation, it is complex. But it gets more complex if we approach it with a traditional mindset. if we run into this adaptability and willingness to change and keep on learning, which has a lot to do with the values of nowadays society, then you're more apt to survive and actually succeed and excel with digital. And that probably, the other questions that usually it's prompted around digital is how do you get there? You know, where do you start with innovation? It is a tedious process, but there are about 3 key principles on how one could get there, or let me say that these 3 principles have been agreed internationally via all the big institutions that actually are driving digital transformation. Fantastic, thank you. So the 3 key pillars for digital transformation, in a nutshell, obviously each of these pockets will have its own complexity and its own customization per business. But you would have first digital innovation. Which technology, piece of technologies of those, for example, showed earlier on, would actually complement your business, or would actually advance or enhance your business? Then business agility. Are we ready to change the processes? You know, the way we think about it. Are we ready to say, we're not going to do things A, B, C, D, but we're going to do A, D, and F, kind of jumps and quantum leaps. But at the core of it is people. Mm-hmm. So we call it human connection, but the truth is that we need to nurture our mindset, open for change, open for adaptability, open to embrace what is new, and most probably invest in reskilling, invest in actually getting people comfortable and on board. But the mindset, the will of wanting to get there together, it's probably sits at the bottom of everything. Mm. And probably, Melkis, you also had, probably you work with a generation of different people from different walks of life as well. So the
and before Melkis goes, because there's once again, which I only can recommend as well, is that we discussed with Lucy May, and we will hear more about Melkis just now, but this we're talking about now is not, anyone can have access to it. I think this is not there's not a thing like that we have to have a ship now and transporting factories to Namibia. This innovation, this digital innovation, digital space, or as they call it, the 4IR, the fourth IR, the Industrial Revolution, is a possibility for us as Namibians going forward. Let's listen and hear from Melkis' example, which is an absolute great example.
Yeah, so the chart that Lucy May just had on the screen there, it spoke about the agility and the willingness for people to make the necessary changes to embrace digital innovation. The current testing times that we're in, COVID-19 has suddenly showed us that we don't have to have physical meetings through apps such as Zoom, platforms such as Skype. We can actually have remote meetings, and someone with an office in Southern Industry doesn't have to drive to Northern Industry, spend 30 minutes in traffic to go and speak for 15 minutes, and turns out not productive and so forth. Actually, it's the COVID time has exposed that we can actually embrace technology. But it sort of just showed that we need to be forced to do that, and that should not be the idea. So LEFA, for us, we have embraced the current times, and we decided that our main objective will be to eliminate people's fears with regards to public transportation in these times where people are fearful of contracting a virus. So we tell our customers that we're going to make sure that the environment in which we're going to transport you is going to be clean. Our drivers are going to be disinfecting surfaces. They're going to be wearing their masks. They're going to be offering hand sanitizers to our customers so that we eliminate some of the fear. So right now, what businesses should be doing is eliminate the fears in people's minds during these tough times, And there within lies the opportunities to innovate. You know, if people are scared to go outside to come to your shop, then sell stuff to them online or deliver to their doorsteps and so forth.
We had just now a slide where I took you to Melky's just now, maybe Lucy May, if you can just go, Ernst, if you can just go back, I think 2 or 3 slides just now, where we want to share with the audience as well. There's 1 or 2 more back. That's one. To the possibility for you. What has changed? And I think that, Lucy May, if you can just change, this is an example here.
I frequently use also with our team, I go through this slide, which is, I don't take the credit for that, is Jayastra actually the source. Actually, please, if you're interested in knowing which are the sources, we'll be happy to share those. I call this the democratization of technology, and LEFA is a brilliant example of how suddenly we started in 2000, correct? This path of how technology was starting enhancing the way we lived. But it's really around this point that we as a society can access digital technology at ease, and is actually a prerequisite, reason for which a business like LEFA started. So I'll just gonna go step by step. In 2000, we used to talk single channel in terms of commerce, and especially in the evolution of retail commerce. Think about you going to the bank. Back in the days, we would have to go to the branch per se. There was no other ways of actually accessing certain services. Then 2008 and 2010, here you started seeing other channels where you could have, instead of the brick and mortar sort of setup, you could start actually accessing financial, for example, services online. In Africa, we have the fantastic options of your e-wallet. The case study on M-Pesa was literally mobile money, which is transacted via mobile. And that was the smarter ideas of a Kenyan financial company that thought, you know what, a lot of Africa's markets are actually trading informally. How do we access those markets? And digital innovation kicked in and brought them to probably 97 million US dollar plus in just 3 years. Everybody, if you go in Kenya, uses M-Pesa. Is actually the thing that people use to start with. So suddenly what that brought, and this is to what Malkis was saying earlier on, that brought to these financial businesses an insights of data and mobile numbers that they didn't have. So suddenly they could see where the money was flowing, was transacting from A to B. And this is what you probably are doing when you see in these fantastic dashboards that the artificial intelligence pieces gathers together. You can see actually the relationship and the correlation between information. And that is really the competitive advantage. So what happened with the cross-channel and omni-channel, the only difference here is that in the cross-channel commerce, the customer would have access to different type of devices or accessibility. But from the back end, we still worked in silos, meaning that the guy in this department would not be sure actually the guy in that department what they would be doing. And that would reflect in the customer experience. The customer experience starts from poor becoming much better to become fantastic when we started using the omni-channel sort of perspective. So on the back end, we work as a cross team, and the customer is at the center of the whole experience, and the customer is actually feeling this one experience throughout the whole journey with the brand. We are talking now today, but this is probably a lot of, when I say omnichannel, and here you see 2013 and 2015, this is what the biggest companies, I would say worldwide, they are sort of setting up the scene. But the truth is that globally, every company is sort of aspiring to get here or here. This is where we can be so laser targeting in our data insights that we can actually say, Sven spends most time on his mobile, so we're gonna send him an advertisement of this thing on his mobile. Whereas Malkis is more on Facebook, so we're gonna send an advertisement for this piece on Facebook. So we make sure that whichever step of the journey you are, according to the audience that you represent, you're gonna actually be captured in that. Mm-hmm. In a nutshell, this is, and it's so brilliantly in only 20 years, this is how fast we went through the influence of digital innovation.
Yeah. Here we have got a comment. I think you've got a fan, Mr. May, asking, please, Sven, bring back next week on further presentations. So there's a fan you have.
Thank you.
And then we have a question from Quentin Potrita. How do we harmoniously build digital transformation in the workplace when senior leadership fears this and the younger employees and customers demand this shift?
Brilliant question. And Quentin, I'm sure that is a question that many worldwide company have.
It's a worldwide issue.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'll bring the experience, the personal experience at the ONL Group. We have a culture, a mindset, which is called breakthrough culture. And it starts there. It starts with the culture of the company, a company that embraces change, a company that allows growth because the end game is about, actually there's no end game, but there's sustainability, there's an ecosystem, there's actually creating a future to enhance your life. That is what sits basically you can have conversations. And through those conversations, we all grow together. It is very true that if that mindset and culture is not the Bible of the company where you work, it is difficult. But to the point, but if we have to then turn the page and look at it more cynically from a business perspective, you've got plenty of CEOs worldwide, from your Apple to those Kodak that never saw the light of the day because they were hesitant in putting forward digital innovation. They are the witness of what are the risks of not investing in the future. So the risk of not investing in the future is greater than actually probably, trying to have conversations today and work together towards the change.
How did Melkis, how do you see that? I mean, you are not much younger than me. I just want to make sure that there's not the But I mean, how do you experience that? The question from Quentin here, for example. Do you also find frustration that, there's this innovative mind, young innovative mind, and you just don't, or is it fine with years Lefa, the co-founder and so forth?
I think I'm a bit more fortunate that I'm probably on the other side of the coin that's for innovation and doing things less traditional ways. And I think right now, the COVID times has exposed or shone light on the fact that we can actually embrace digital innovation. We can be more efficient. For instance, people are working remotely. Is there a need to have a 10-story building and incur all the rent costs, all the overheads, utility, and so forth? Decisions are being taken much quicker because people don't need to congregate in a meeting for two hours to make a decision because everyone is working remotely. So we just need, I think if it's a CEO or CEOs or leaders that do not want to embrace technology, then I think it's the duty of, let's say, boards, if companies have boards, to then make a decision between, do we want to survive or do we want to sink, right? So we should be advocating for CEOs that would want to embrace digital innovation and not stick with those that do not want to embrace ideas from young, innovative people and so forth. Yeah.
And I mean, an amazing example is of innovations, Netflix as well.
Yeah.
You talk about Kodak. I mean, the story about Kodak, it's amazing. I mean, if you think about it, it's not wrong what they thought, that you would take a photo, it would self-develop itself and so forth. What more do you want? And they, that's where the digital, and then they stopped that. I mean, they had the idea, and it was equally stopped the story we hear now just now.
Yeah.
They wanted to do that at Kodak, and then they were stopped by senior management that they said, no, it's not right. Right time. And I think Netflix is another a democratization matter here. I watch when I want. And I watch which movie I want. And I want to watch it where I want to watch it. It's a typical example where a film industry has a next level of opportunity of survival.
Yeah.
Because giving access to watch this at home or wherever we don't go necessarily that much into the movie, although that's a separate experience. But post-COVID, it's another great example here.
Yeah, yeah.
So the question is, what else is there?
Yes.
And I'm fearing at the moment the time is running out, and we haven't. It feels like we haven't even started. And I think we need to think very hard, maybe that we will have to have a follow-up session next week, because I think once again I can't emphasize this enough, that we have to find ways for our Namibians to grab a new opportunity. I think there's so many great examples. Whether you have a restaurant, I mean, we probably can tell the story of what technology can be there as well. Yep. But I think this requires another session. And maybe before we close today, Lucy, maybe start this time with Melky. So Lucy first. No, Melky, maybe a few final words from your side. How do you see the way forward?
So I'll just, my remarks would be on the opportunities that I see in our market in Namibia. And Lucy may mention the great example of M-Pesa. We've now seen in some of the lockdown measures that informal sector was kind of really immensely excluded, because there's a fear that they could not keep the lockdown measure or the social distancing measures. But if we had services such as M-Pesa, where people can transact quickly and don't have to exchange money, don't have to touch each other. We could include the informal sector. Again, opportunities with, right now, everyone is, we have to write down our names and contact details so that we can help the government with contact tracing. But again, how efficient is it? Like technology, can we capture people's faces? Can they read ID numbers instead of writing them down? Can someone, for instance, develop something that can, voice recognition that can take down people's contact details, cell phone numbers, instead of writing down and so forth, which, I think there's a lot of opportunities for Namibians here.
And, I mean, we have the capability in our country.
Yeah, certainly.
I think we just talked about a new tax system and the receiver of revenue. Yes. We should have developed it ourselves.
Certainly, yeah.
We need to use our own people, and I think the capability of such app tracing people on COVID, it sits with us.
Yes, definitely.
There is no two ways about it. Lucy, May, from you,
before
we end.
Yeah, I agree 100% with you that there is loads of talent in Namibia. I work with a team which is extremely talented, and not only, on top of that, they're hardworking people, like literally, and 100% Namibian. It is probably, it is for us as leaders to provide them with platforms and exposure that will build on top of what is needed next. Digital technology can be quickly grabbed and transformed, and the principle behind them is just to remember to the sharing and collaborative piece is essential for it to thrive, but also curiosity, and transform that curiosity into a factual journey where everybody, all stakeholders can contribute. That is the key to success or succeeding with digital. And also to not fear it, because digital technology, it's, as I said before, it changes on a daily basis. Nobody expects everybody to know all the platform, but to welcome the principles and actually create that environment where people can thrive.
Maybe a last quick question before we close by Haidulo Nambuli, who says, interesting explanation on omni-channel retailing. What are the challenges currently faced by our retailers, especially grocery shops, that are perhaps delaying aspects such as online shopping, pay online and pick from shops, online marketing and retail? And I think one thing we've touched on is senior leadership.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Logistics has to do. This is also where we can work as teams.
And when you talk about logistics, what do you mean by that?
Because the digital platform per se probably is the easiest piece, correct? The storefront where the customer, the consumer accesses the actually old brick and mortar is actually the easiest piece, but is, have we connected all the dots on the back end? Is there somebody sitting in analytics, looking and reading those analytics, informing the person that actually will deliver on the storefront? Look, this is the information we received, this is where you act now. Processes, mindset, people, and the digital technology is actually the easier part. That is digital transformation. But probably to your point, it is a chapter, a session per se, where we can actually unpack what digital transformation entails and what it takes from businesses to actually embrace it and be successful with it, of course.
Yeah, and I think that somewhere there's a personal, there's always a personal fear of something new, which also comes to it. If you have online, do you trust it? Am I going to receive what I ordered? Is the money going to the person it's supposed to go?
It's true.
And we find it very often as well when we buy a watch or something. We take time to have just open it basically, but we don't take time of what it can actually do. And then we discover items.
Words.
So on the word, we discover items. I think we will have another session next week on this topic because I think for the future of Namibia, this is very critical and will provide many, and young people especially, an opportunity for a business. I'm looking forward to see you next week, and I'd like to thank Lucy May and Melkis for a wonderful discussion. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.